Hi, Assalamualaikum, my 11th grade students. Today we are going to discuss a new topic about narrative text, but still part 1. Still with me, Mem Umi Novayanti Purba, and check this out. Let's start our lessons by watching a video about Malin Kundang. Malin Kundang is one of the examples of the narrative text. Okay?
This is a story about Malin Kundang. He was a boy from a very poor family who lived with his mom. His father is a sailor, but he had already died. Malin was a smart boy, but a bit naughty. He always chased a chicken and hit it with a broom until one day he slipped off and hurt himself. The wound left a scar on his head. When Malin grew up, he decided to go to city, so one day he will become rich by the time he went back to the village. Malin's mother disagreed with his decision because he was the only one she had. But Malin had already made up his mind. His mother had no other choice but to let her only child go. Malin was traveling by sea, so he came along with one rich merchant. He was hoping to become one of his crew and learn from that merchant. Malin went to any place wherever the winds took him. Soon he will become a great successful man. Many years has passed since then. Malin has become a rich merchant because of his hard work and married the most beautiful girl in the world. And he had forgotten his mother as well as the village. On the other hand, Malin's mother was getting older. She missed her child so much that she had always waited for Malin's return at the harbor every day until one day there was a merchant who stopped by the village. She knew it was Malin the moment she saw him. What makes her so sure is because of the scar on his hand. But Malin denied her as his mother because Malin felt ashamed to his wife and the crew. Then he was gone. Malin's mother was really upset. Then she started to curse him. On his journey, Malin's ship began to shake, and soon it turned into a story. Until now.
Narrative text. Let's start with the definition first. Narrative text is a text which retells the story of previous experiences where complication dominantly places participants into conflicts. Jadi narrative text adalah cerita atau teks yang menceritakan tentang pengalaman di masa yang lalu, di mana complication itu atau masalah itu lebih dominan terjadi kepada participansnya. And how about the purpose? The purpose or the communicative purpose of the narrative text is to entertain or amuse the readers or listeners about the story. Jadi tujuannya hanyalah untuk menghibur pembaca ataupun pendengar dari cerita tersebut. Now, we came to some kinds of narrative text. The first is fable. Fable is a short allegorical narrative traditionally by means of animal characters who speak and act like human beings. Jadi, fable ini adalah salah satu jenis dari narrative text yang melibatkan hewan di dalamnya. Jadi, fable itu adalah cerita dongeng tentang hewan. The examples of fables are Mouse, Deer, and Crocodile or The Smartest Parrot. The second is fairy tale. Fairy tale is a story often intended for children that features fanciful and wondrous characters such as elves, goblins, fairies, trolls, dwarfs, giants, etc. Nah, jadi fairy tale ini adalah cerita, biasanya sih didongengkan untuk anak-anak yang melibatkan beberapa event yang berupa keajaiban. Jadi karakternya bisa jadi goblins, peri ya, kemudian ada raksasa, ada kurcaci, dan lain sebagainya. The example of this is Cinderella, Snow White, and Pinocchio. The third is myth. Myth is a traditional or legendary story, usually concerning some being of hero or event, with or without using factual or real explanations. It involves historical events and supernatural abilities and powers. Jadi kalau myth ini adalah cerita yang tradisional dan juga melegenda, dan biasanya ini melibatkan kepahlawanan dan aksi heroik dari tokoh yang diceritakan. Jadi di sini ada supernatural abilities. The examples of myth are Dewi Sri or Batara Kala. Now, the fourth one is legend. Legends is a short, traditional, and historical narrative performed in a conversational mode. It is a narrative of human actions that are perceived both by teller and listeners to take place within human story. Nah, jadi legenda ini adalah di sini ada dikatakan perform in a conversational mode. Jadi kebenarannya kita belum tahu ya, karena ini berupa cerita dari orang-orang yang hidup di masa tersebut. Ya, jadi perceived both by teller and listener. Jadi ada cerita, ada kisah di zaman dahulu dan itu muncul kembali di masa sekarang. The examples of legend is the legend of Tangkuban Perahu or the story of Toba Lake. Jadi kebenarannya masih kita ragukan karena hanya berdasarkan cerita. Okay, the last kinds of narrative is science fiction. Science fiction is a fiction story based upon some imagined development of science or upon the extrapolations of a tendency in society. Nah, namanya juga sudah fiction ya. Jadi ini adalah fiksi, hayalan, imajinasi, tetapi imajinasi yang dikembangkan lebih ke sains. Biasanya ini ada di film-film yang sering kita tonton di box office ya, seperti Star Wars. Kemudian di sini ada A Space of Odyssey dan ada beberapa lagi The Guardian of the Galaxy. Nah, itu berupa science fiction. This is the most important part in a text or in genre, especially in narrative, because how do we know that the text is narrative text is by seeing or analyzing the generic structure. Nah, jadi generic structure ini adalah bagian yang paling penting dalam teks ya, Nak ya. Kita bisa menentukan suatu teks apakah itu masuk ke dalam jenis naratif, deskriptif, explanation itu dari menganalisis bentuk generic structure-nya. Now, since we are talking about narrative text, so the generic structure for narrative consists of 4 steps ya. The first one is orientation. Apa-apa saja yang ada di orientation. Di orientation itu sets the scene. Jadi latarnya ada di sini, where and when the story happen, waktunya, kapan dan di mana. Introduces the participants of the story. Biasanya langsung diperkenalkan siapa sih tokoh utama di dalam cerita tersebut. Who and what is involved in the story. Nah, jadi mungkin ada peran-peran yang lain ya selain peran utamanya dan apa saja yang terlibat di dalam cerita tersebut. Jadi kalau contohnya tadi ya di Malin Kundang, set the scene-nya di mana, di daerah mana, apakah itu West Java. Kemudian when it happened, maybe once upon a time, introduces the participants, mungkin ada Malin dan ibunya. And then the second is complication. Complication is a problems which leads to the crisis of the main participants. Karena naratif ini concern ke penokohan ya Nak ya, jadi ada main participant dan main participant itulah yang memang yang diceritakan dari awal sampai ke akhir. Diperkenalkan di orientation, kemudian nanti di bagian complication, the main participants-nya will get the problems. Now, after the participants get the problem, so it will comes the resolutions. The resolution is the problem is resolved. Jadi masalahnya itu terpecahkan. But it can be either in a happy ending or sad or tragic ending. Jadi nggak selalu cerita tersebut memiliki happy ending. Bisa juga itu berupa sad ending. Nah, kemudian di bagian yang keempat, the last part of generic structure is reorientation. Nah, kalau reorientation ini opsional. Boleh ada, boleh tidak, karena ini sebagai penutup. Nah, kalau ada, biasanya it consists of a moral lessons or the new fate of the main participants. Jadi kalau reorientation ini ada dalam teks naratif, biasanya berisikan moral lessons atau juga perubahan perilaku atau apa sih akhirnya yang terjadi kepada tokoh utamanya. Nah, itu ada di reorientation. This is the example of how we analyze the sentence, the narrative text, by using the generic structure. Okay, look at the first paragraph, especially the sentence with blue color. That is belong to the orientations. Jadi di bagian paragraf pertama, kalimat yang sudah mem tandai dengan berwarna biru itu adalah orientations. Jadi ada set the scene, siapa tokoh utamanya, apa karakternya, berasal dari mana, kemudian ada nggak karakter pendukung, itu ada di orientation. Kemudian ada di bagian complication. Biasanya complication ini adalah bagian yang paling banyak ya dan paling penting terjadi di dalam naratif. Nah, complication itu bisa jadi bukan hanya satu, tetapi lebih dari satu, dua, dan yang lainnya. Nah, kebetulan di sini complication itu terjadi masih di paragraf pertama, di mana Malin membulatkan tekadnya untuk menjadi kaya dan meninggalkan ibunya untuk pergi merantau. Disitulah mulai terjadi beberapa problems, okay? Nah, kemudian di bagian yang ketiga itu adalah resolutions. Kebetulan di sini hanya 3 bagian ya nak ya untuk generic structure, tidak ada reorientation atau coda. Karena reorientation itu biasanya juga optional dan bisa kita ambil dari cerita ini. Dia istilahnya tidak tersurat melainkan tersilat. Moral lesson itu adalah yang bisa kita simpulkan dari teks tersebut. Nah, di resolution yang terjadi di cerita Malin Kundang ini kebetulan bukan happy ending, melainkan tragic ending. Oke. Okay, now what should you do in your group? You have formed a group last week, and now here is your assignment. The instructions, read the instruction first. You have to work in a group of 4. Ini sudah ada grupnya ya nak ya, 4 orang untuk masing-masing kelompok. Jika belum, tolong dibuat kelompoknya ya nak ya. Kemudian find a story of narrative text. Jadi ambil satu contoh cerita naratif. Kemudian create a video by your own. Buat video ya nak ya dari cerita tersebut. Boleh menggunakan aplikasi apapun, tetapi mohon kalian buat video berdasarkan kerja kelompok kalian. Videonya tidak bersuara. Nah, setelah kalian pilih videonya tersebut, maka isilah cerita dalam video tersebut dengan suara kalian masing-masing untuk menceritakan tentang cerita naratif tersebut. Paham ya nak ya? Jadi ambil video. Nah, video tersebut ceritanya tentang naratif, itu bebas, boleh legend, boleh myth, boleh fable, boleh fairy tale, itu terserah. Nah, tetapi masalah ceritanya ataupun penjelasannya itu kalian merekam dengan suara kalian. Jadi kalaupun ada beberapa karakter, kalian bisa saling bergantian untuk mengisi suara di video tersebut. Nah, kemudian attach the text to your video. Jadi setelah nanti videonya selesai, mohon nanti ada di attach teksnya seperti yang sudah melakukan tadi di bagian akhir slide ya. Nah, setelah itu apa yang harus dilakukan? Ya, you should do the analysis based on the first one is character. Please analyze the main participants. Tolong dianalisis bagaimana penokohan dari karakter utamanya, nama dan juga sifatnya seperti apa. Kemudian do the analysis based on the generic structure, seperti yang sudah contohkan. Analyze the text based on the generic structure. Jadi teksnya berdasarkan cerita yang kalian pilih ya nak ya. Silakan dianalisis berdasarkan generic structure. Kemudian submit in form of learning video or YouTube. Nah, silakan submit videonya ke YouTube. Boleh di bawah channel mem, boleh langsung di bawah channel mem, boleh juga kalian langsung ke channel masing-masing. Okay, I'll wait for your group assignment and please be creative. Okay, that's all for today, kids. Thank you for your great participations. Please stay healthy, stay at home, and see you. Goodbye. Assalamualaikum.